What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Comeback Conversations. This week, we've got my friend, we've got a comeback, we've got a Canadian. Well, he's now an American, by the way, of Canada. Taylor Ethans. We're gonna give this over to you here in a couple minutes. But what I like to do with these, I know you just said, what do we do? How do we do these things? We're just gonna roll. It's a conversation, open dialogue. I don't want to give you any tee-ups, right? This is not a spot for. I shouldn't say that. This is a spot for you to share your story. One of the things that we're big on doing right now in IAMACOMEBACK is show them, don't tell them. I've been preaching this message for going on 8 years, living this thing from the front, energetically, gestationally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. Today I don't have my IAMACOMEBACK shirt on here. I have one underneath here because I'm wearing my friends for a podcast. But what I want to do here is open up the. There's a lot of guys that are skeptical out there, right? Business owners, doctors, lawyers, pilots, the high energy, high performing, high functioning, even though I hate that word, highly producing type guys. So what I want to do here is, number one, just open up the dialogue for you to share your conversation with what you went through to get here, because I'm also going to call this out from the beginning. See, you went all the way from joining me in the Comeback Council, coming to an experience, then you went on a hiatus for a couple months, maybe even a couple years. I don't remember how long it was. Then you came back in and said, I need to get closer to this fire. And then you joined me in a one-on-one fashion, right? To be coached by me one-on-one, which we're not here to talk about that. But we're here to talk about is your journey, what you did, how you got here, and why you clicked that link today. So why don't you give us a little background about where you're from and what's going on with you?
Yeah, well, appreciate that, Mark, and thanks for having me on the comeback conversation call today. So just a bit about me, a bit about my story. I'm a Canadian by background. I, currently live now down in Austin, Texas. But when I, first came across IAMACOMEBACK, I was living at home in Canada, in Calgary, and the year was 2020, and I was a business owner. I had started my own business. I had taken that business public. Raised a lot of external capital, and ultimately was, going through a very stressful period in my life with both, relationship challenges, business challenges, and I was, turning to alcohol to try and solve it. Right. I was drinking a lot more than I ever used to. And I was drinking for the wrong reasons, and drinking to sedate and try and, run away from my problems and my issues versus addressing them head on. And, I came across on a comeback, frankly, from, seeing it on a Facebook ad. And, in reality, I saw, the message that you were speaking about IAMACOMEBACK and the ability to take control of my life and take control of my relationship with alcohol. And that resonated with me. And
talk about that. Talk a little bit about that. Talk about control, right? Because I think that's the piece that I don't think I know, right? The message we deliver is for a certain type of man, right? And these type of men, yourself, myself included, we're control freaks, if you will. We want to control even our relationships, our finances, our bodies, right? You don't have kids yet, but we want to control everything. Yet the world tells us that you cannot control your drinking, right? But to be clear, there's no such thing as controlled drinking. There's controlling your thoughts, your emotions, your actions over your life to then figure out, pick and choose where alcohol fits in. But why did the words control reach into your soul?
Yeah, I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there. Control resonated with me because I think as an executive, and frankly as an owner, and as someone that has always taken action and always taken control of a situation. That's exactly what I was looking for in my relationship with alcohol, because I felt like I had gotten out of control with that relationship and out of control with, frankly, my relationship with myself. And, learning and listening to the message that you were speaking, which is that, you can take back control. I can look at, alcohol and my relationship with it in a different light from, what every other message I'd ever seen out there, frankly, which was it was a binary option, right? It's either 0 or 1. You either have a relationship with alcohol or you end your relationship altogether. Right? And that might be, ultimately, my relationship or other people's relationship they decide to go with long term is maybe, drinking doesn't fit into the lifestyle that I want to live anymore. But frankly, what I wanted to do at that time was to explore what taking control of that relationship looked like. So when I saw the ad on Facebook, and in reality, I watched the ads for many months before I actually took action, and decided to have an initial conversation with yourself and to the I'm a Comeback program. And but once I did, and I clicked that link, I ultimately realized right away that this was the program for me. And because I realized it wasn't a program, right? This wasn't something that I was going to join and then ultimately 30 days later, 45 days later, program's over, let's switch it off. It was, hey, this is actually all about mindset. So for me, as soon as I learned about this isn't this isn't a sort of a pity party or a, woe is me. Like I've got, I've lost control, let's all sort of, talk about our feelings. I think feelings is great and emotions are incredibly important. And that's ultimately what we do here, or what you do here at the Comeback. But I think for me, it was more so about knowing that I have power. I'm a powerful guy. I've shown and exhibited power in every other area of my life along the way, whether that is building my family or building businesses or ascending throughout organizations and executive roles. And, it should be no different when it came to my relationship with alcohol.
I want to back up because you said what we do here, and you are 100% correct, Taylor, because I'm a Comeback is not about me. It's less about me and more about we these days, because we, meaning we the people, just like the United States of America, right? We're building this thing that is after freedom. Freedom is ultimately controlling your drinking, controlling your financial outcome, controlling your energy, controlling your mindset, right? All these different things you said. So when you mentioned and went on that, like, yeah, man, it's what we do here. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of men that are blossoming from this thing. Let's talk about this. You've gained control of your life in all different components, right? So I know it because I know you. What do you think is the biggest ROI you've had, right? Is it in your relationship with your wife? Is it in, I know you've had some gut issues, right? You've got some from the time you're younger, whatever, it's sickness or whatever. You're on building businesses, you're doing stuff in your life. What do you think is the number one asset or biggest ROI or most ROI that you've received as choosing this new lifestyle?
That's a great question. And obviously return on investment ROI resonates with me as a finance guy. And, I think it's a great question because I've had so much return in so many different areas of my life. It's a hard question to answer, but I'd say I would probably put it in sort of a top three bucket. Number one is the relationship with my wife. The return on investment by, joining IAMACOMEBACK and taking back control of my life in all areas has had its most impact probably in the relationship with my wife, the way that I connect with her, the way that I communicate with her, the way that we're able to, be intimate with one another. It's resulted in a connection that frankly, we didn't have before I joined IAMACOMEBACK. It's not even going back to where I was. It's gotten deeper from where we even began. And so that's been massive. The second return on investment is got to be the health, right? Like my health, I was, 40 pounds heavier than I am right now. I never was, massive, but ultimately, I gained a lot of.
You're tall though, right? To be fair, you're tall, right? So you didn't ever really look that fat, but go ahead.
Exactly. So, it's, and frankly, I frankly just, I joined, I'm grateful that I decided to take action, at a younger age, potentially in my life than some other folks, but it really doesn't matter at what age you decide to take action, take back control of your life, because return on investment is going to be the same, if not greater. And for me, it was within the health as well. I was able to not only from a physical appearance perspective, drop a lot of weight, add some muscle, but really I had health issues from dealing with stress in the wrong ways, right? Like as you mentioned, I've got some gut issues. I've got, IBD. I've got, things that, are, lifelong issues, but ultimately those go dormant when you're treating yourself well and they don't flare up. And it's been, a massive return on investment for me is when I get stressed now, I have healthy ways to take care of that. I, live a lifestyle, the comeback lifestyle, if you will. I'm able to stack my 7Fs. I'm able to take control of things in a much different way in my head, as well as then translate into how my body responds to that. So, max return on investment in my health. And frankly, thirdly, a massive return on investment in my faith in myself, my confidence, right? Like that is, arguably the biggest and most important thing that anyone can have, which is confidence and faith in themselves. And by taking control of my life again, by knowing exactly who I am, what I want, and why I want it, now have, ultimate confidence in myself and my abilities to do, frankly, whatever I set my mind to. So, looking at three things that I mentioned that from a return on investment perspective, but pretty massive when you lay them out like that.
So now I'm glad that you said that. Family, right? With your wife, health, you're young as hell. So like getting yourself in order early and then going into your faith. With faith in this program simply means believing in something you cannot see. However, there's a massive God tone on it right now, which is where I'm pushing just because where I'm at in my journey. We're not going to get on that conversation. We're going to get on to that conversation of, I'm going to call you out here and I'm going to have you share, because what you did for a little while, a couple of years, was you didn't really let anybody know what you were doing. So I want to talk about that bridge. Somewhere inside of these past 6-7 months, you made a choice and a decision to not care what people think and started preaching who you are. And by making that decision in your life to show the world how much better you are, how much stronger you are, how much more resilient you are, now people have joined because of that, right? But talk about that feeling, because I think that's what stops just a lot of men, probably women too, but since we only focus on high-performing men, from making that leap, taking that step, clicking that link, because they're like, oh, I don't know what the guys at the country club are going to think. Can I not golf anymore? Or the guys that go and they join and they just kind of skirt around the edges because they're so embarrassed and ashamed of this problem. Like, I don't think that anything that I've done I'm ashamed of. And I was a scumbag, right? Even though I made a bunch of money, I was a fucking scumbag. So talk about that for you though, because somewhere, I don't know, 4 months ago, the light bulb went off and you're like, yes, I'm a comeback, screaming it from the rooftops, all in. And I know why we did this. We don't have to talk about that, but like having that freedom to truly be proud of who you were and where you came from. What does that feel like for you today?
Yeah, it's a great question. And to your point, like I joined IAMACOMEBACK in September of 2020. We're now sitting almost at, the end of 2023, and for many years, right? I very much, I changed my life in a lot of ways. I was seeing massive return on investment, like I mentioned, in different areas of my life, but I was still holding on to this shame or to this, lack of desire to want to share with others sort of what I was doing to improve my life, right? I think people could see the improvements, they could see the changes, but I was holding on to not wanting to have sort of that full confidence to just own who I was and who I am now and how that shaped me to ultimately be, the person I am today. So a light bulb went off in my head about 6-7 months ago, and I was like, how can I be truly confident? How can I be truly, have this ultimate faith in myself if I'm not, really being, open and honest about sort of what I've done to transform myself? And I think that holds a lot of guys back, from even joining in the first place, let alone kind of sharing their journey once they get in. But for me, the feeling to be able to actually, go out, tell people about it, Whether I can go golf and I can go do all the things I used to do, right? Frankly, I can do them better. But sharing, what you can get, what you can achieve when you really kind of invest in yourself, which is what you're doing here when you join IAMACOMEBACK, has led other friends and connections to me to come and join IAMACOMEBACK. It has led to my own confidence and faith growing and getting even deeper, and it's allowed me and frankly guided me to want to continue to invest and build myself more and more. And I think that's been one of the big changes in me is just wanting to let people know that it is a good thing to want to invest and improve yourself. And I don't care if it's drinking or, eating too much or whatever it is in your life that isn't working, taking action and improving something is something to be proud of versus something to be shameful about.
Liberation. That's what you just explained right there. Last question before I let you go, man. I want to thank you for giving me and the listeners and all the people that you're going to help your time. There's people that sit on the edge every day. They literally go to click it, or they click it and they fill out an application and they don't show up for the phone call, or they don't book the call. I mean, we have all these different steps that we process guys through to be able to get to where you're at, right? This is not something that happens overnight, but there's somebody who's going to watch this thing at 2 p.m. or 2 a.m, and they're going to have that drink, and it's going to be that moment. There's going to be an aha moment. The light bulb's going to go off. They're going to see this moment of clarity. Smoke's not really going to happen that way, but they're going to be sitting there and they're going to be like, dang, should I do this? How do you get them off the fence? What's one word of encouragement? Not one word, but one brief sentence of encouragement, and tell them what you wish that you would have done sooner.
Well, that's exactly it. If I could turn back the hands of time, I would have taken action sooner. I think the longer you wait to take action on any problem in life or anything you want to improve upon, the bigger that bubble of fear can grow within inside of you, right? So, the biggest piece of advice that I could give to listeners right now is trust your gut, right? Like, what makes sense for you, and that you can do and want to do better. The sort of the last piece I'd leave people with is, and I always, tell people do you recommend I join? Do you not recommend I join? Is ask my wife, right? Ask my family, ask everyone else around me, my friends and connections and business associates. Every single one of them would tell you Taylor is a much better place, much better person, much better overall than where he was a few years ago. So I always like to, no different than you say, let's show him, not tell him. Same thing with me, right? I'm like, hey, let's show him, ask people around me, and every single person would tell you, including my wife, is I am so happy that Taylor found IAMACOMEBACK, and I'm so happy that he decided to invest and go all in on himself. And that's all the encouragement I need every day, besides what I bring to myself to keep going and know that I made the right decision.
You certainly did. I love it. And that's what I want to showcase before I let you go, right? Show them, don't tell them. I brought this thing back. You're the third episode. The first guy was a guy who sold his business for millions and millions of dollars. The second guy is a guy who's actually the shirt. Business is flourishing, fucking high up in the army, legitimately like a badass. And then you, who's took a company public and exited companies and bought and sold in multiple companies. Show them, don't tell them. I surround myself with winners and someone who's looking to solve this problem by being in proximity of winners. There's nobody that has high performers like we do. We don't just say it, we actually prove it, and we show it. And you could agree to that, I'm sure, and attest to that. So Taylor, thank you for your time today, man. It's going to help somebody. I know it's going to urge somebody off that fence. It's going to push them forward to click on that link, and you're going to save some lives with this. So thank you, man, and I'm proud of you.
Appreciate the time and appreciate you. Thanks so much, Mark.
You're welcome, man.